Since when do they let the help wear scrubs and play doctor around here?
Catherine Ford, dripping in diamonds, Hermès bag on her arm, said that while staring dead at Naomi Underwood. A black nurse, 6 years of service, standing in a packed emergency room on a Friday night. Naomi kept her composure. Catherine's lip curled.
Someone who looks like you carries the bedpan, not the stethoscope.
Then she grabbed Naomi's badge, ripped it off, and slapped her across the face so hard
Penny Ford!
the sound echoed through the entire ward.
Oh!
Naomi hit the floor. 15 people watched. Not a single one moved. But here's what none of them knew. The man waiting for Naomi at home had a name that makes powerful people lose sleep. Whew! Buckle up. Because what this rich mother did next, that was just the beginning. Naomi's cheek was already swelling when she picked herself up off that cold hospital floor. Her hands were steady. 6 years in emergency rooms teach you how to keep your hands steady, even when everything else is falling apart. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She looked at Catherine Ford and said 4 words. Your mother needs help. Because here's what was happening while Catherine was busy proving how powerful she was. Eleanor Ford, 80 years old, was lying on a gurney 10 feet away, clutching her chest, barely breathing. Her heart monitor was spiking. Her lips were turning blue. Naomi was the only qualified nurse within reach. But Catherine stepped between them, physically blocked the path. Arms crossed, chin up, like she was guarding a velvet rope at some country club. I said, you don't touch her. I don't care if she's dying. I'd rather wait for a real nurse than let someone like you anywhere near my family. Someone like you. She said it the way you'd talk about a stain on your dress. Behind them, Eleanor let out a weak cry. Her oxygen was dropping. The monitor started beeping faster. Naomi looked past Catherine. She looked at Dr. Stanton, the hospital administrator, who had rushed over when he heard the commotion. Surely now, with a patient crashing, he would step in. Stanton cleared his throat. Naomi, maybe it's best if we find someone else too. There is no one else. Naomi's voice was calm but firm. She's coding in the next 2 minutes if I don't intervene. Stanton looked at Catherine, then at Eleanor, then back at Catherine. And this man, a medical professional, an administrator sworn to protect patients, said, Mrs. Ford, I understand your concern. Let me see if she's dying right now. That wasn't Naomi. That was Eleanor's own heart monitor screaming what everyone in that room refused to say out loud. Naomi made her choice. She pushed past Catherine, grabbed the crash cart, and started working on Eleanor. Because that's what nurses do. They save your life, even when you don't think they deserve to. Catherine's hand reached for her phone. I'm calling my husband, and I'm calling my lawyer. That woman just assaulted me. Let me tell you what Naomi Underwood did in the next 11 minutes. She stabilized an 80-year-old woman's heart. She administered the right medication at the right dosage at the right time. She read the monitors, adjusted the oxygen, kept Eleanor Ford alive, while Eleanor's own daughter stood 3 feet away on the phone, screaming about lawsuits. 11 minutes. That's how long it took Naomi to save a life. And when Eleanor's breathing steadied, when the monitor stopped screaming and started beeping at a rhythm that meant she's going to make it, Naomi stepped back, pulled off her gloves, and exhaled. Eleanor reached for Naomi's hand. Her grip was weak, but it was real. Thank you, sweetheart, she whispered. Thank you. For 3 seconds, the room was quiet. For 3 seconds, it felt like maybe, just maybe, what Naomi did would matter more than what she looked like. Then Catherine hung up her phone. Don't you dare touch my mother again. She said it loud, loud enough for the entire floor to freeze, loud enough for the other nurses to stop mid-step, loud enough for patients in neighboring beds to pull back their curtains and watch. Naomi turned around slowly. "Ma'am, your mother went into cardiac distress. I did my job." "Your job?" Catherine laughed. Not a real laugh, the kind of laugh rich people use when the waiter brings the wrong wine. "Sweetheart, let me explain something to you. I don't know what affirmative action program got you through nursing school, but in my world, people with your background clean the rooms. They don't run them." There it was. Not even pretending anymore. Not hiding behind polite words or careful phrases. Just raw, open contempt. Right there in the middle of a hospital, with patients watching and nurses listening. Naomi's jaw tightened. But she didn't fire back. She'd heard variations of this her whole career. The surprised looks when she introduced herself as the RN. The patients who'd ask to double-check her credentials. The ones who'd whisper to each other when she walked away. She knew this script by heart. "Mrs. Ford," Naomi said quietly, "I've been a registered nurse here for 6 years. I have the highest patient satisfaction rating in this department. Your mother is stable right now because I was here. That's all I have to say." Catherine's eyes narrowed. That was the problem with people like Naomi, in Catherine's mind. They didn't know when to be quiet. They didn't know their place. And this one had the nerve to talk back. In front of people. 6 years. Catherine took a step closer. 6 years of what? Changing bedpans and pretending you matter? Let me tell you something, girl. My family's foundation has donated more money to this hospital than you'll earn in your entire life. One phone call from me, and you don't just lose this patient, you lose your career. She let that hang in the air. Then she turned to Dr. Stanton, who was standing near the doorway, looking like a man trying to become invisible. "Dr. Stanton, I want this woman removed from the floor. Not reassigned, removed. Tonight. Or I will call every board member I know, and this hospital will lose more than a nurse." Stanton's face went pale. The Ford Foundation donation, $2.4 million a year. That's what was running through his head. Not Naomi's rights, not hospital policy, not what was right, just the money. He walked over to Naomi. He didn't look her in the eye. "Naomi, I think it would be best if you took the rest of the night off." Naomi stared at him. "Are you serious?" "It's not a punishment. It's just, let's let things cool down." A patient's family member slapped me across the face. In front of witnesses. And I'm the one being sent home? Stanton lowered his voice. "I understand how you feel, but Mrs. Ford is a major donor, and we can't afford..." "Can't afford what? To treat your staff like human beings?" That one landed. A few nurses at the station exchanged glances. One of them, Brenda Collins, head nurse, 22 years on the job, took a half step forward like she wanted to say something. But Stanton shot her a look that said, "Don't." Brenda stopped. She had 2 kids at home, a mortgage. She couldn't afford to be the next Naomi. So Naomi stood alone. Stanton straightened his coat. "Go home, Naomi. We'll sort this out tomorrow." "Sort what out?" "She hit me, Dr. Stanton. There are cameras in this hallway. There are witnesses everywhere. What exactly needs to be sorted out?" Catherine cut in from across the room. "Oh, please. I barely touched you. You're making a scene, which is exactly what people like you always do. Play the victim. Wave the race card. It's exhausting. People like you. Second time tonight." And the way she said it, not angry, not heated, just bored. Like Naomi's pain was an inconvenience. Like her dignity was a minor disruption in Catherine Ford's evening. Naomi looked around the room. She looked at the other nurses. Some stared at the floor, some looked away. One bit her lip so hard it turned white. She looked at the patients, a mother holding her child's hand, an old man in a wheelchair, a teenager with headphones pretending not to hear. She looked at the security guard, Terrence Moore, standing by the elevator, hand on his radio, waiting for an order that never came. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. Not because they didn't care, but because they'd all done the math. Catherine Ford had money. Naomi Underwood had a badge on the floor and a bruise on her face. And in that hospital, on that night, the math was simple. Naomi picked up her badge. She didn't dust it off. She didn't clip it back on. She just held it in her hand like it weighed something different now. Then she walked. She walked past the nurses' station, where she'd charted thousands of patients. Past the break room, where she'd eaten lunch alone on her first day, and with friends every day after. Past the hallway, where they'd hung the Employee of the Quarter photo, her face in it, smiling, 3 months ago. She walked through the automatic doors and into the parking garage. And nobody followed her. Catherine watched her go. Then she smoothed her jacket, sat down beside her mother, and said, "Finally, now can we get someone competent in here?" Eleanor, lying on the bed, turned her face away from her daughter. She didn't say a word, but her eyes were wet. In the parking garage, Naomi sat in her car, engine off, lights off. She pressed her palm against her swollen cheek and held it there. The bruise was warm. It was spreading. She looked at her phone. One missed call from D with a red heart next to the name. Dominic. He'd called 20 minutes ago. She didn't call back. She just sat there, in the dark, in the silence. And for the first time in 6 years, Naomi Underwood cried. Not the dramatic kind you see in movies. Not loud, not shaking, not falling apart. Just tears, running down one side of her face, over the bruise, quiet as rain on a window. She gave 11 minutes of her life to save a woman. And that woman's daughter slapped her for it. Then the hospital sent her home. Not Catherine, her. She sat in that car for 19 minutes. She counted every one. Then she wiped her face, started the engine, and drove home. But here's the thing about that drive, about those 23 minutes between the hospital and her apartment. There was something Naomi didn't know yet. She didn't know that Terrence Moore, the security guard, had been wearing a body cam the entire time, and that little red light on his chest had recorded everything. She didn't know that Brenda Collins had quietly pulled up the incident report form on her computer, then watched Stanton delete it from the system. And she definitely didn't know what was about to happen when Dominic saw her face. Yo, wait! Wait! She saved that woman's life, with a handprint still burning on her face. And they sent her home? Not the one who hit her. Her! Put yourself in those shoes for 1 second. How would you feel? Yeah, keep watching. Naomi pulled into her apartment complex at 11:47 p.m. She turned off the engine, but didn't get out. She sat there, staring at her reflection in the rearview mirror. The bruise had spread, a dark, ugly purple that stretched from her cheekbone down to her jaw. It looked worse under the parking lot lights. It looked like exactly what it was, proof that someone had treated her like she was nothing. She finally got out, took the elevator, walked down the hallway to apartment 4B. She unlocked the door and stepped inside. The apartment was dark. Dominic wasn't home. Away on business, he'd said that morning. Back tomorrow night. The place felt bigger when he wasn't there. Emptier. Naomi dropped her bag on the kitchen counter. She didn't turn on the main lights, just the small lamp by the couch. She walked into the bathroom and stood in front of the mirror. She touched the bruise gently with 2 fingers. She winced. Then she did something she couldn't explain later. She pulled out her phone and took a photo of her own face. Not to post, not to send, just to have. Just so she could look at it later and remind herself that it really happened. That she wasn't exaggerating. That she wasn't being dramatic. Because that's what they always say, isn't it? You're overreacting. It wasn't that bad. Why do you always have to make it about race? The photo was her proof, to herself, that it was that bad. She sat on the edge of the bed. The apartment was quiet. On the nightstand, there was a framed photo of her and Dominic at a gala last year. She was in a red dress, laughing. He was in a black suit, looking at her like she was the only person in the room. Behind them, slightly out of focus, a table of men in expensive suits. Important-looking men. Men whose faces didn't mean anything to Naomi. She glanced at the photo, then looked away. She pulled a blanket over her shoulders, lay down on top of the covers with her shoes still on, and closed her eyes. She didn't sleep. She just lay there. Meanwhile, back at Crescent Hill Medical Center, the cleanup had already started. Not the medical kind. The political kind. At 12:15 a.m., Dr. Philip Stanton sat in his office with the door closed. He was on the phone with the hospital's legal counsel, a man named Walter, who billed $400 an hour and had exactly zero interest in what was right. The Ford Foundation donates $2.4 million annually, Stanton said. If Catherine Ford goes public with a complaint against one of our nurses, then the nurse becomes the story, Walter finished, not the donor. Got it. Here's what we do. Classify Underwood's departure as voluntary leave pending internal review. That way it's administrative, not disciplinary. But it puts the focus on her, not on Mrs. Ford. What about the incident? She says the nurse assaulted her. Did she? No. Catherine hit the nurse, but Catherine is claiming self-defense. Walter paused. Are there cameras?
Hallway cameras, yes. And the security guard was wearing a body cam.
Lock the footage down. Internal access only. Don't share it with anyone outside the hospital until legal has reviewed it. And get that security guard to understand the chain of custody. Stanton hung up. He rubbed his temples. Then he typed an email to HR. Subject: Naomi Underwood. Administrative leave. Effective immediately. He didn't mention the slap. He didn't mention Catherine. He wrote 3 paragraphs of corporate nothing. Pending internal review. Standard protocol. In the best interest of all parties. The kind of language designed to say everything and mean nothing. He hit send at 12:31 a.m. At 12:45 a.m., Brenda Collins, head nurse, 22 years on the job, was still at the nurses' station. She hadn't clocked out. She'd watched Stanton delete the incident report from the system earlier. She'd seen it happen in real time. The form she'd started filling out, the one that documented Catherine's assault, just gone. Wiped from the screen like it never existed. Now, Brenda was staring at a blank form. A new one. Her cursor blinking at the top of the page. She started typing. At approximately 9:42 p.m., patient family member Catherine Ford physically struck R.N. Naomi Underwood in the face. Her phone buzzed. A text from Stanton. Brenda, legal has advised us not to file any incident reports until the internal review is complete. Please hold off, and I'd appreciate your discretion on this. These situations are delicate, and I'd hate for anyone's position to be affected by premature action. Brenda read it twice. I'd hate for anyone's position to be affected. That wasn't a request. That was a warning. She looked at the form. She looked at the text. She thought about her 2 kids, her mortgage, her 15 years until retirement. She closed the form without saving. She hated herself for it, but she closed it. At 1:10 a.m., Terrence Moore, the security guard, knocked on Stanton's office door. "Doc, I wanted to ask about my body cam footage from tonight. Standard protocol is to upload it to the security server within the hour. Should I—"
"No," Stanton cut him off. "That footage is part of an internal review now. Don't upload it, don't copy it, don't share it with anyone. I'll let you know when legal clears it."
Terrence stood there for a moment. He'd been in security for 19 years. He knew what internal review meant when the person who did the hitting was rich and the person who got hit was not. "Dr. Stanton, that nurse got assaulted. I watched it happen. My camera watched it happen. If we sit on this—"
"Terrence." Stanton's voice was soft but final. "I appreciate your diligence, but this is above both of us. Go home. Get some rest." Terrence left, but he didn't delete the footage. He didn't upload it either. He just kept it. On the camera, on his person. Just in case. At 7 a.m., Naomi woke up on top of the covers, still in her scrubs, shoes still on. Her phone was buzzing. An email from HR. "Dear Miss Underwood, effective immediately, you are placed on administrative leave pending an internal review of events occurring on the evening of date. During this period, please refrain from contacting patients, staff, or visiting hospital premises. Further instructions will follow." No mention of Catherine. No mention of the slap. No mention of the 15 people who watched it happen. Just Naomi's name. Just Naomi's leave. Just Naomi's career. Frozen. She read the email 3 times. Then she put the phone face down on the nightstand, right next to that photo of her and Dominic at the gala. In the photo, behind their smiling faces, those men in expensive suits were barely visible, blurred, anonymous. But one of them, the one sitting at the head of the table, was Dominic's uncle. The man who built the Caruso empire. The man whose name opened doors that most people didn't even know existed. And Dominic, the gentle man who made Naomi coffee every morning and kissed her forehead every night, was his successor. Naomi didn't know that yet, not the full picture. She knew he was a businessman. She knew people respected him. She knew he kept certain parts of his life private. But she had no idea what was about to walk through that front door. Dominic Caruso came home at 6:30 that evening. He'd been in Philadelphia for 2 days, meetings that Naomi never asked about and he never explained. That was their unspoken agreement. She loved the man, not the schedule. He opened the front door carrying takeout from her favorite Thai place. He was already talking before he saw her. "Babe, I got the green curry you like. Extra spicy, no mushrooms, just how you—" He stopped. Naomi was sitting on the couch, legs tucked under her, still wearing yesterday's scrubs. The apartment was dim. She hadn't opened the curtains all day. She turned to look at him, and Dominic saw her face. The bruise had deepened overnight. It wasn't just purple anymore. It was black at the center, swollen, stretching from her left cheekbone to her jaw. Her eye on that side was slightly puffy. She looked like someone had hit her with intent. Because someone had. Dominic set the bag down on the counter. Slowly. The way you set something down when your hands need to be free. He walked over to the couch and knelt in front of her. He didn't say anything at first. He just looked. Then he raised his hand, slowly, carefully, and touched the edge of the bruise with his fingertips. Naomi flinched. Not because it hurt, because someone was finally seeing it. "Who did this to you?" His voice was quiet. Not the kind of quiet that comes before calm. The kind of quiet that comes before everything changes. Naomi told him. She told him all of it. Catherine's words, the badge on the floor, the slap, Eleanor's cardiac episode, saving the old woman's life, Stanton sending her home, the HR email, the administrative leave. She told it like she was reading a report. No tears this time. She'd used those up last night. When she finished, Dominic was still kneeling in front of her. His hand was still on her face. But something behind his eyes had shifted. Something had gone cold and precise, like a machine switching on. What was her name? Catherine Ford. And the administrator? Dr. Stanton. Philip Stanton. Dominic nodded. He leaned forward and kissed her forehead, gently, the way he always did. Then he stood up, walked to the balcony, slid the glass door shut behind him, and made a phone call. The man who answered was Victor Salerno. Victor had worked for the Caruso family for 23 years. He wasn't muscle. He wasn't a lawyer. He was something more useful. He was the man who knew everything about everyone. If you needed a file on a judge, Victor had it. If you needed the private number of a hospital board chair, Victor could get it in 15 minutes. Dominic's voice on the phone was even. No anger, no heat, just instructions. I need a full profile on Catherine Ford. Husband is Graham Ford, real estate. I need every complaint ever filed against her, every NDA, every settlement, everything. Victor didn't ask why. He never did. I also need the name of every person on the board of directors at Crescent Hill Medical Center. And I need the security camera footage from their emergency room, last night between 9 and 11 p.m. Time frame? Tonight. Done. Dominic hung up. He stood on the balcony for a long time, looking out at the city. Then he went back inside, sat next to Naomi on the couch, and pulled her against his chest. "It's going to be okay," he said. She leaned into him. "I just need a lawyer. Maybe I'll file a complaint with the nursing board. I don't know. You don't need to do anything tonight. Just rest." She didn't argue. She was tired in a way that sleep doesn't fix. She closed her eyes against his shoulder and eventually drifted off. Dominic didn't sleep. He sat there with his arm around her, watching the bruise on her face darken in the lamplight, and waited for Victor's call. It came at 11:15 p.m. Victor had delivered everything. First, Catherine Ford's history, and it was ugly. 3 formal harassment complaints from domestic workers over the past 8 years. A housekeeper in 2018 who said Catherine threw a glass at her head. A nanny in 2020 who said Catherine called her illegal trash in front of her own children. A restaurant hostess in 2022 who said Catherine grabbed her by the arm hard enough to leave marks because the wait for a table was 15 minutes too long. Every single complaint was settled out of court. Every single one came with a non-disclosure agreement and a check. Catherine Ford didn't just abuse people. She had a system for it. Hit, pay, silence. Hit, pay, silence. Over and over, like clockwork. Second, the Crescent Hill Board of Directors, 9 members, and one of them, the vice chair, was a man named Arthur Brennan. Arthur Brennan had received a very large construction contract from a Caruso-affiliated company 4 years ago. The kind of contract that doesn't happen without a handshake and an understanding. Arthur Brennan owed the Caruso family. And tonight, that debt was coming due. Third, the footage. Victor had obtained the hospital security camera recording through a contact in Crescent Hill's IT department. A man who had once needed a favor from the Caruso family. A man who understood that when Dominic Caruso asks for something, you don't ask questions. The footage was 18 minutes long. It showed everything. Catherine's first confrontation. The badge being thrown on the floor. Naomi stabilizing Eleanor. The slap, clear, violent, unmistakable. Naomi hitting the floor. Stanton
standing there, doing nothing. Naomi getting up, walking away, no one following.
Dominic watched it on his laptop in the kitchen while Naomi slept on the couch. He watched the slap 3 times. Each time, his face showed less. Not more anger, less everything. Like emotion was being replaced by something harder, something architectural. He closed the laptop. He sat in the dark for a while. Then he made 3 more calls. The first was to Arthur Brennan. It was brief. Emergency board meeting, tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Make it happen. The second was to a journalist at the city's largest newspaper, a reporter who covered healthcare and institutional accountability. Dominic didn't give details. He just said, "Be at Crescent Hill Medical Center tomorrow at noon. Bring a photographer."
The third was to his attorney, not a corporate lawyer, not a defense attorney, a civil rights litigator named Sandra Wells, one of the most respected in the state. "I'm sending you footage tonight. Assault on a healthcare worker. Institutional cover-up. I need you at Crescent Hill by 10 a.m. He hung up. He looked over at Naomi, still asleep, the bruise on her face half hidden by the blanket she'd pulled up to her chin. Dominic Caruso was not a violent man. That was a common misconception about men in his position. Violence was inefficient. Violence was loud. Violence left marks that people could point to later. What Dominic understood, what 50 years of Caruso family influence had taught him, was that the most devastating thing you can do to someone isn't hurt them. It's show everyone exactly who they are. In public, with evidence, on the record. Catherine Ford had built her entire life on the assumption that money could silence anyone. She'd slapped, insulted, and bullied her way through decades because every problem had the same solution. Write a check, sign an NDA, make it disappear. But you can't NDA a boardroom full of witnesses. You can't write a check to erase camera footage that's already been sent to a civil rights attorney and a newspaper. Catherine Ford was about to learn something she'd never been taught. That there are people in this world whose power doesn't come from a checkbook. And she was about to meet one of them. Tomorrow morning, 10 a.m., in the same hospital where she'd put Naomi on the floor. Tuesday morning, 9:58 a.m., Crescent Hill Medical Center, 3rd floor, the executive boardroom. 9 leather chairs around an oval table. Glass windows overlooking the parking lot. A projector screen pulled down at the far end of the room. Coffee that no one was going to drink. The board members were already seated. Arthur Brennan had called them in at 7 a.m. No agenda, no explanation, just be there, non-negotiable. When Arthur Brennan said non-negotiable, people showed up. Dr. Stanton was sitting at the end of the table, looking like a man who hadn't slept. He didn't know what this meeting was about, but he had a feeling. The kind of feeling you get when you've done something wrong and the walls start closing in. Catherine and Graham Ford arrived at 10:02 a.m. They'd been told it was a donor relations discussion. Catherine walked in wearing a cream blazer and pearl earrings, carrying herself like she owned the building. Graham followed, quieter, more cautious, reading the room the way businessmen do. Catherine sat down. She smiled at the board members the way she smiled at everyone, like she was doing them a favor by being there. Then the door opened one more time. Dominic Caruso walked in. Dark suit, no tie, clean shave. He moved the way people move when they don't need to prove anything. Slow, deliberate, taking up exactly as much space as he wanted. He didn't sit down. He stood at the head of the table, opposite Stanton, and looked around the room like he was counting faces. Good morning. My name is Dominic Caruso. Graham Ford's hand froze on his coffee cup. He knew that name. Everyone in East Coast real estate knew that name. The Caruso family didn't just build buildings. They decided which buildings got built, which deals went through, which people mattered. Catherine didn't recognize it. Not yet. I'm here, Dominic continued, because Naomi Underwood is my fiancée. Catherine's smile disappeared.
2 nights ago, in your emergency room, my fiancée, a registered nurse with 6 years of service and a spotless record, saved the life of an 80-year-old cardiac patient. While she was doing that, she was verbally degraded, physically assaulted, and then removed from the building by your administrator. Not the person who hit her. Her. He paused. Let that land. I have something I'd like to show you. Dominic pulled a laptop from his bag, connected it to the projector, and pressed play. The footage rolled.
18 minutes. Every second of it. The boardroom watched Catherine tell Naomi she didn't have the breeding or the background to treat her mother. They watched her rip Naomi's badge off. They watched her slap Naomi across the face, the sound sharp even through laptop speakers. They watched Naomi hit the floor, get back up, and push past Catherine to save Eleanor's life. They watched Stanton stand there and do nothing. They watched Stanton tell Naomi to go home.
They watched Naomi walk through those automatic doors alone. No one behind her, no one beside her. When the footage ended, Dominic didn't turn the projector off. He left the last frame frozen on the screen. Naomi walking away, the back of her scrubs, the empty hallway behind her. Catherine's face had gone white. Graham was staring at the table. Stanton looked like he was going to be sick. That's not all, Dominic said. He opened a folder and placed printed documents on the table, one by one. Catherine Ford, 3 prior harassment complaints. A housekeeper in 2018. A nanny in 2020. A restaurant hostess in 2022. All settled with NDAs. All paid to be quiet. This is a pattern, not an incident. He slid the documents to the center of the table. Board members leaned in. Some of them read. Some of them didn't need to.
Dr. Stanton, Dominic turned to him. You deleted the incident report that your head nurse tried to file. You ordered your security guard to suppress body cam footage. You placed the victim on administrative leave and took no action against the person who assaulted her. You chose a donor's money over your employee's safety. Stanton opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Sandra Wells, Dominic's civil rights attorney, stepped forward from the corner of the room where she'd been standing silently. She placed her card on the table. The body cam footage and hospital security footage have been submitted to the district attorney's office as of 8 a.m. this morning. A formal complaint has been filed with the state nursing board regarding the hospital's handling of this incident. And a reporter from the Tribune is downstairs in the lobby with a photographer.
The room went dead silent. Dominic looked at the board. I have 3 recommendations. Nobody interrupted him. 1. Dr. Stanton is removed from his position immediately. His conduct will be referred to the state medical board for review. Stanton's hands started shaking. 2. Criminal assault charges against Catherine Ford. The footage is clear. The witnesses are available. The district attorney already has everything. Catherine snapped. This is ridiculous. Do you know who my family is? Do you know how much money we've... 3. Dominic didn't raise his voice. He just kept going, like she hadn't spoken. Naomi Underwood is reinstated immediately. Full back pay, a formal written apology from this hospital, and a new policy. 0 tolerance for abuse of staff, regardless of how much money someone donates. He looked at Catherine for the first time since the footage played.
Mrs. Ford, do you know who she is? The woman you hit? She's the woman who saved your mother's life while you were on the phone calling your lawyer. Your mother was dying, and Naomi, with your handprint still on her face, went back and saved her.
That's who you slapped. Catherine's mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. Nothing came out. From the hallway, through the glass window of the boardroom, Brenda Collins was watching. She'd been called in as a witness. Her eyes were red, but her back was straight. The board chair called for a vote. It took less than 4 minutes. Unanimous. All 3 recommendations approved. Stanton was escorted from the building by security. The same security he'd told to stand down 2 nights ago. Catherine Ford was informed that police would be contacting her within 24 hours. And Naomi Underwood's phone, sitting on the nightstand in apartment 4B, buzzed with a new email. Dear Miss Underwood, on behalf of Crescent Hill Medical Center, we sincerely apologize. Naomi read the email 3 times. Then she read it a 4th time because the first 3 didn't feel real. Reinstated. Full back pay. Formal apology. She was sitting on the couch in the same spot where she'd cried 2 nights ago. Same blanket. Same lamp. But everything felt different now. Like the room had shifted an inch to the left, and suddenly the light was hitting things she couldn't see before. Her phone buzzed again. A text from Brenda Collins. Girl, get your scrubs ready. You're coming home. Then another one, from Terrence Moore. Told you I kept that footage. See you tonight, Underwood. Then another, and another. Nurses she'd worked with for years. People who hadn't spoken up that night, but who were speaking now. Some of them apologized. Some of them just sent a heart emoji. One of them, a young nurse named Deborah, who'd only been on staff for 8 months, sent a message that made Naomi stop scrolling. I watched what happened and I froze. I've been sick about it for 2 days. You deserved better from all of us. I'm sorry. Naomi stared at that message for a long time. Then she typed back, You're here now. That counts. She showed up for her shift that evening at 6:45 p.m. 15 minutes early, same scrubs, same stethoscope, badge clipped to her chest, a new one, freshly printed, because the old one had been on the floor. When she walked through the automatic doors, she expected it to feel normal, routine, just another Tuesday night in the ER. It wasn't. Brenda was standing right inside the entrance. Behind her, a line of nurses, techs, and staff stretching down the hallway. They weren't in formation. They weren't holding signs. They were just there, standing, waiting for her. Brenda hugged her first. Tight. The kind of hug that says more than a speech. Then Terrence. Then Deborah. Then people Naomi barely knew. Cafeteria workers, janitors, a radiology tech from the 2nd floor who she'd shared an elevator with maybe twice. Nobody gave a big statement. Nobody clapped. It was quieter than that. Just nods, touches on the shoulder, small words. Welcome back. We missed you. Glad you're here. The new interim administrator, a woman named Dr. Patricia Howell, met Naomi at the nurses' station. She shook Naomi's hand and said, Effective today, this hospital has a zero-tolerance policy for any form of abuse towards staff. No exceptions. No donor gets to override that. Ever. She said it loud enough for the floor to hear. She meant it that way. Naomi clipped her new badge on. She took a breath, and she got to work. Her first patient that night was a 19-year-old girl with a broken wrist, scared and alone in the ER for the first time. Naomi pulled a chair up next to her bed, sat down at eye level, and said, I'm Naomi. I'm going to take care of you. You're safe here. The girl relaxed, just like that. At 8:30 p.m., Naomi took a break and walked past room 6, Eleanor Ford's room. The old woman was still there, recovering. She'd be discharged in the morning. Eleanor saw Naomi through the open door. She waved her in. Naomi hesitated.
Then she stepped inside. Eleanor's eyes went straight to the bruise, fading now, yellow at the edges, but still visible. She reached for Naomi's hand and held it with both of hers.
I raised her, Eleanor said quietly, and somewhere along the way, I lost her. She became someone I don't recognize. Her voice cracked. What she did to you, there's no excuse. None. Naomi squeezed her hand. How are you feeling tonight? Better. Because of you. Eleanor's eyes were wet. You came back to save me, even after what she did. Why? Naomi thought about it. Not for long. Because that's the job, Mrs. Ford. You needed help. Everything else is just noise. Eleanor held her hand a little tighter. A tear rolled down the old woman's cheek. You're a good one, Naomi. Don't let anyone make you forget that. Naomi smiled. It was small, but it reached her eyes. When she got home that night, Dominic was waiting. He'd cooked. Nothing fancy, pasta, garlic bread, a glass of wine already poured. She sat down across from him. They ate in comfortable silence for a while. Then Naomi set her fork down. I know what you did, Dominic. I know what you are. More than you think I know. He stopped chewing. He looked at her, waiting. I don't need you to save me. I need you to know that. I would have fought this myself, filed complaints, hired a lawyer, gone to the press. I would have done it all. It just would have taken longer. Dominic nodded slowly. I know. Then why did you do it? Because longer means more nights sitting in that car alone. More nights with that bruise, and no one doing anything about it. You could have fought it yourself. I know that. But you shouldn't have to. Naomi looked at him for a long moment. Then she reached across the table and took his hand. Don't ever make decisions for me again without asking. Deal? He smiled. Deal. They finished dinner. She told him about her first patient, the girl with the broken wrist. He told her about the pasta recipe. Too much garlic, not enough salt. They laughed about something small and stupid and perfect. And for the first time in 4 days, Naomi Underwood felt like herself again. 3 weeks later, Naomi pinned a new title to her badge. Charge nurse. A promotion she'd earned long before that Friday night, but one that had been under review for months. Funny how fast paperwork moves when the right people are watching. Catherine Ford pleaded no contest to misdemeanor assault. 200 hours of community service at a free clinic. Court-ordered behavioral counseling. No NDA this time. No check to make it disappear. On her first day at the clinic, Catherine handed a cup of water to an elderly patient. She didn't say anything. She just handed it over. It was small, but it was the first time in a long time that Catherine Ford had given something to someone without expecting anything back. Man, this story's made up. But that bruise, that silence, you know that's real. So be honest with yourself. If you were in that ER that night, what would you have done? Comment, share this, and subscribe so you don't miss the next one.